Imagine waking up every single day in a reality where the numbers flashing on a multi-monitor setup carry more weight than the lives of billions of people. You are not operating in a government building or a military bunker. You are sitting behind the reinforced, tinted glass of a private financial institution that officially avoids the spotlight, but secretly dictates the fate of entire nations. Welcome to the cold, hyper-efficient, and terrifying ecosystem of a Wall Street shadow bank. This is not the commercial bank where you deposit your paycheck. This is a sprawling, invisible empire that operates entirely in the blind spots of international law, moving trillions of dollars through encrypted corridors to manipulate global markets, topple sovereign currencies, and engineer economic cycles. To the architects of this system, you are not a citizen or a human being. You are simply a data point, a manageable liability, or a source of direct financial extraction. But how exactly does an ordinary individual, completely trapped in the suffocating cycle of a mundane 9-to-5 existence, break through the reinforced glass ceiling? What specific, dark psychological metamorphosis is required to climb the bloodless corporate ladder to become an absolute god of the global ledger? Your descent into the financial abyss begins right now. Your journey begins at the absolute bottom of the financial food chain. You are the junior analyst, the data entry drone, the modern-day indentured servant of the financial district. You graduated from an elite university with massive expectations, but your current reality is a windowless office and a crushing 100-hour work week. You are the anonymous face staying at the desk until 4 in the morning, scrubbing through tens of thousands of lines of raw data and complex legal filings just to find a single microscopic exploit in a new regulatory loophole. Your life is strictly measured in 6-minute billable increments, and your human value is entirely tied to your willingness to sacrifice your physical health, your personal relationships, and your sanity for the benefit of a sprawling spreadsheet you do not even fully comprehend yet. At this initial stage, your psychological state is a volatile mixture of desperate, blinding ambition and sheer, crushing exhaustion. You watch the sun rise from your desk, fueled exclusively by cheap caffeine and the hollow promise of a year-end bonus. You realize very quickly that this system is not designed to create any tangible value for society. It is meticulously designed to find friction in the massive flow of money and monetize it instantly. You are a highly disposable cog in a terrifyingly high-frequency machine. Having proven your absolute reliability and your total willingness to abandon any semblance of a normal civilian life, you are elevated to the rank of associate structurer. You are no longer just cleaning the raw data, you are now beginning to actively manipulate complex financial instruments. You are explicitly tasked with constructing the multi-layered, deliberately confusing financial products that the general public will never fully understand. You quickly learn the dark, lucrative art of aggressive securitization. You take thousands of individual, high-risk debts, struggling residential mortgages, predatory car loans, and maxed-out credit card balances, and you mathematically slice them into complex tranches that can be deceitfully sold to pension funds as high-grade, completely safe investments. Your psychology undergoes a permanent, chilling mutation here. You systematically stop seeing these underlying debts as real families desperately trying to keep a roof over their heads. You now view them purely as abstracted cash flow variables on a glowing screen. You learn exactly how to mathematically hide toxic risk deep within the corporate structure, wrapping terrible bets in layers of complex algorithms until even federal rating agencies cannot see the underlying rot. You are no longer a passive victim of the 9-to-5 grind. You are an active participant in global extraction. The sheer adrenaline of the massive trade permanently replaces your biological need for sleep. Because you have clearly demonstrated a cold-blooded, undeniable talent for identifying and exploiting market vulnerabilities, you are permanently pulled out of the retail structuring sector and inducted into the bank's elite proprietary trading desk. You are now a vice president, a high-stakes corporate gambler playing exclusively with the shadow bank's own massive capital reserves. Your operational theater shifts drastically from local consumer markets to the aggressive global stage. You are no longer just selling complex products. You are actively and aggressively betting against the financial stability of entire vital industries. You seamlessly utilize dark pools, private, unlit financial exchanges that allow you to trade massive, market-moving blocks of stock completely away from the public eye, to manipulate corporate valuations without the average retail investor ever knowing why their entire retirement fund just vanished overnight. Your psychology transitions fully into that of an apex predator. You intensely study the psychological weaknesses and panic triggers of the investing masses, patiently waiting for the exact moment of peak vulnerability to launch a coordinated short-selling campaign that will permanently drive a targeted company into bankruptcy. You understand with crystal clarity that your massive personal profit is directly and proportionally linked to someone else's catastrophic loss. You operate comfortably in the gray, unregulated zones of insider information. Eventually, the daily, visceral stress of the active trading floor is replaced by the far more lucrative, highly abstracted world of the shadow directorate. You are officially promoted to managing director, essentially functioning as a regional warlord of the invisible financial underworld. You no longer look at individual corporate stocks. You now look exclusively at the macroeconomic topography of entire national economies. You operate from heavily fortified, completely silent executive offices, managing the shadow bank's most sensitive, highly classified relationships with offshore jurisdictions and global tax havens. Your perspective zooms out from the immediate trade to the broader, terrifying architecture of global sovereign debt. The psychological shift at this management level is one of absolute, chilling sociopathic detachment. You can order the sudden, calculated withdrawal of billions in credit from a struggling emerging nation, knowing with absolute certainty that it will immediately trigger a devastating currency crisis, hyperinflation, and massive unemployment, with the exact same emotional engagement as a child playing a casual board game. Your primary operational concern is no longer immediate quarterly profit, but the long-term aggressive acquisition of distressed sovereign assets. You patiently wait for the national crisis you artificially created to hit its absolute peak, and then you swoop in to buy up the infrastructure for pennies. Your deep, unparalleled understanding of broader global regulatory bottlenecks elevates you out of regional management and straight into the dark. An incredibly lucrative heart of the syndicate's offshore logistics and asset shielding division. You become the grand, invisible facilitator. You are no longer dealing with aggressive floor traders. Your daily encrypted contacts are now transnational politicians, highly corrupt central bankers, and ambitious heads of state. The shadow bank requires a constant, massive, uninterrupted influx of untraceable global capital. And it is your specific, highly classified job to completely bypass the complex web of global anti-money laundering laws to aggressively secure it. You actively operate in an invisible, parallel shadow economy that completely dwarfs the gross domestic product of most developed Western nations. Your psychology becomes that of a ruthless, completely detached transnational broker. You meticulously set up thousands of layers of untraceable corporate shell companies, heavily manipulate international trade shipping invoices to completely disguise the movement of billions, and flawlessly launder the massive proceeds of global instability through incredibly complex, impenetrable offshore financial networks. You witness the staggering, unbelievable hypocrisy of global politics firsthand, regularly and quietly moving massive capital for the very governments that publicly condemn your bank on the world stage. The highest levels of the shadow bank leadership eventually realize that in the modern digital age, controlling the physical currency is merely half the battle. Controlling the regulatory law itself is the ultimate victory. Because of your deep systematic understanding of the syndicate's operations, you are recruited into the elite, highly secretive monetary policy and central bank lobbying division. You become the invisible architect of the global economic narrative. Your new primary battlefield is the marble halls of federal governments and the closed-door boardrooms of the world's most powerful central banks. Your specific job is to artificially manufacture the exact macroeconomic conditions that guarantee the shadow bank's continued, unchallenged dominance. You orchestrate massive, billion-dollar lobbying efforts to systematically deregulate the very financial markets you fully intend to aggressively exploit. You strategically and quietly place the bank's former top executives into high-ranking, powerful government regulatory positions, ensuring with absolute certainty that the federal lawmakers writing the financial policies are secretly aligned with your ledger. Your psychology becomes deeply cynical and hyper-manipulative on a societal scale. You view global economic stability not as a desirable goal, but merely as a temporary resource to be aggressively spent to socialize your losses while privatizing your immense gains. Having completely mastered both the complex logistics of invisible money and the aggressive manipulation of federal law, you are promoted to the terrifying, highly exclusive position of a regional partner. You are essentially a modern-day untouchable financial emperor, granted near-absolute, unchecked authority over the shadow bank's vast operations in a specific, massive geopolitical theater. You are no longer just executing strategic orders from above. You are actively generating massive global revenue streams by explicitly engineering the economic boom and bust cycles of entire continents. You negotiate directly, face-to-face in unrecorded meetings with ruling dictators, desperate presidents, and ambitious political leaders. You offer them impenetrable offshore financial security and overwhelming market dominance in exchange for exclusive, multi-decade control over their nation's most valuable, unmined natural resources. Your psychology transforms entirely into one of imperial, untouchable entitlement. You view developing resource-rich nations not as sovereign, independent states with actual citizens, but merely as distressed corporate assets to be aggressively stripped, repackaged, and completely exploited for your private shareholder value. You command invisible private financial armies and control strategic national infrastructure through crushing debt leverage. You live in heavily guarded, unimaginable luxury, completely isolated from the immense human suffering your systemic debt traps intentionally cause across the globe. Your unprecedented, terrifying success in generating trillions in completely untraceable wealth and securing massive, undeniable geopolitical influence for the institution earns you a highly coveted seat at the ultimate table. You are now a member of the Board of Governors, functioning as the vital, highly classified liaison between the sprawling shadow bank and the absolute highest, most secretive echelons of the global oligarchs and the deep state elite. You no longer even visit the trading floors. You reside in towering, ultra-secure penthouses in global capital cities or exclusive, heavily fortified offshore financial havens, thousands of miles away from the chaotic noise of the retail market. Your psychology is now purely driven by the ruthless maintenance of absolute, unyielding global power and the continuous accumulation of astronomical, intergenerational wealth. You view the shadow bank not as a financial institution at all, but as an indispensable, highly efficient instrument of global statecraft and a perfect, invisible vehicle for unprecedented personal dominance. You attend lavish, highly exclusive globalist galas and conduct closed-door, unrecorded meetings with heads of state and powerful directors of national intelligence. At this dizzying altitude, so the lines between the private bank, the state, and intelligence agencies blur completely into non-existence. You are utterly untouchable. Finally, you reach the untouchable apex of the entire global hierarchy. You are the CEO. You are the supreme architect of the shadow system. You are no longer reacting to global market trends. You are actively engineering them. You systematically create the exact geopolitical and economic conditions for markets to crash or soar, ensuring your organization is perfectly positioned to profit massively from the resulting chaos. You sit in utterly silent rooms and pull the invisible strings that manipulate sovereign governments, dictate global energy prices, and rewrite the financial fate of entire nations on a glowing screen. You view human history as a complex chessboard, controlling the vital financial pieces that move in the dark. The dark psychological transition from the exhausted analyst to the phantom billionaire orchestrating global history is entirely complete. But as you look down from your sprawling, debt-soaked global empire, a chilling new reality emerges on your monitors. The next grand evolution of global conflict won't be fought with fiat currencies or central banks. It will be fought in the silent, decentralized digital networks that threaten to bypass your entire banking architecture. How do you survive when the true war shifts to a digital realm you cannot control? Stay tuned, because the true shadow war of the digital age is only just beginning.